Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are positively playing baseball right about now, and you know, when I saw the Orioles are going to take on the Phillies and see the local teams a little bit more often, I thought, well, maybe it'll give me a chance to catch up with some old friends. And I figured this is right about the time of the pandemic where if you happen to be a curmudgeon to start with, it might even go downhill. Howard Eskin has been my friend going on 3 decades. I think he's been doing it in Philly a lot longer than that. Last I saw you was you and me and Tony Bruno when we're on the edge of Miami out at this pier drinking Roger Goodell's drinks and eating his food and having a good time, and life is good. And all of a sudden, neither you and I have been to a ball game in 8 months. It's crazy, right? The last time I went to a sporting event was the Super Bowl.
I went to spring training after that in Clearwater for the Phillies before everything got shut down. I was there for pitchers and catchers, which I usually go for because after that it just becomes the games in spring training now are really nonsense. But I went there, and then I've been to a few Phillies games, but you can't talk to anybody. Well, you can on, everything's done with Zoom news conferences, but there's no interaction, there's no personal contact, so it's not the same. So you watch the game. I actually, believe it or not, I don't mind no fans. No traffic. You get right in.
See, I knew you'd find a silver lining, Eskin. God, we're a minute into this, and it's great. No fans, perfect for you.
Well, no fans. It's just, it's okay. Because once you start watching the game, you just watch the game. And you don't pay attention.
It's like going to a movie. You don't need to go to a movie with anybody else. Once it starts, you can just watch it, right?
Yeah, well, you can do it that way, too. It's not... Yeah, I guess you can go to a movie by yourself or with somebody, but the press box is limited. So I normally sit right in front of the press box in the seats because you can't sit anywhere in the stadium. They don't permit you to do that. But I just watched the game. And and here's another silver lining. With no fans, you can hear what's going on in the dugouts. I heard Aaron Boone, the Yankees were in recently, and I heard Aaron Boone yelling at the umpire. I heard the players, yelling encouragement to the players in the batter's box. So you can pretty much hear everything through the stadium. Now, you have some nitwits in Philadelphia that stood in center field outside the gate and started blowing a bullhorn, and that's just a little over the top. But there's like 10 to 14 people there.
Howard, I was up in a 700 level at the Vet when they closed the bathrooms up there when the Phoenix Cardinals came into town back in the Kotite era. I saw lots and lots of worse things in that hallowed space, believe me.
Well, yeah, I mean, these people in center field, it's nice that they're fans and they come out. They come out every game. There's zeros trying to become ones. Nobody's trying to become somebody. And that's all right. That's their world, and that's nice. But honestly, I don't mind not having fans there because you're really just watching the game. And then Spencer Howard, who pitched on Sunday for the Phillies, was his first game in the big leagues. First game his parents couldn't be there. No fans. But he liked the cutouts. He said it was nice diversion to have the cutouts in the seats. So he was okay. He was okay with that. And on TV, and then they have the crowd noise, within the stadium, but on TV, I don't mind it on TV either. Now, I know, hopefully baseball doesn't try to stuff fans in there and extend the situation we're in this country more because, people aren't going to wear their masks once they drink a beer. They're not going to socially distance. And there's going to be people outside the tailgate, even for baseball games, and that's not going to be a good thing either. So at some point, I think we got to get through this season, and baseball season's a joke right now anyway. I think it's a complete farce.
I agree. I mean, this is where I am, right? Like, so, and I'm literally not making this up, Howard. I haven't been to a hockey game in 26 months. I walked off the ice in Las Vegas when they won the Cup. My team won, then didn't bring the Stanley Cup to Baltimore. The owner lied to me, and I know that doesn't sit well with you. Where you are in Philly, it doesn't sit well with me. Leon just lied to me, lied to Baltimore, and so I'm done with the Cavs. So I haven't watched hockey. They seem to figure it out, right? Like, I heard about their rules. You go to Canada, you hang out. They're less infected. They're going to play the championship in Edmonton, where there's going to be even less chance of infection. Baseball, like, to me, this hockey thing starting, and I know for you and the Flyers, and maybe this is the year they win the Cup when nobody's there, it really has left me hollow, right? Like, and they've all been different in different ways. Like, for hockey, on an ice sheet, in a trash bag, with no fans, that's not hockey. That's not playoff hockey to me. It doesn't sound like it, doesn't feel like it. The intensity's brought on by the fans, and I know you know what I'm talking about. Baseball, they're playing 7-inning games. They couldn't dredge the field in D.C. Sunday. Howard, they were shoveling mud at 3:30 in the afternoon in D.C. I'm not taking any of this baseball. This championship will not be like it's. It reminds me of Eddie Feigner and the All-Stars. They might as well just play softball. Play two outfielders. Play 8 guys. You know.
Well, the Phillies owner John Middleton, who was a really wonderful guy, said this season he doesn't believe this season has an asterisk. I'm telling you, he's right. Not one. How about 25 asterisks? You're not going to have, and I don't know how they're going to have all the teams play the same amount of games because now the Cardinals, it's a week and a half. I mean, what are you going to have, a doubleheader every day or 2 doubleheaders each day? How are you going to make up the games, especially the teams that they don't play within their division, the teams that they play outside the league that they only play once. So I don't know how you can do that too. I just don't know how they're going to get all the games in, and that's just not fair. And
there's no integrity to it. Like, that's what. I mean, at the end of the day, we do want all of this to be fair and on the up and up. It's how we made a living discussing it, right? There's nothing about it that feels remotely equitable, or even from they chased Strasburg out of the game on Sunday, and you feel like, well, they chased Strasburg out. That's not Strasburg. I mean, that's Strasburg pitching in Bradenton in March 10th is what that is, and that's what it looks like to me.
Well, 7-inning games, I've said it publicly. Why don't they just bring a beer league team in there and just have a 7-inning softball game? 7-inning games are a joke. And I don't want to hear, well, you saved the pitchers. Well, you've got 60 players, if you count those satellite teams that everybody has, those extra 30 players. So you've got 60 players. You got 16 pitchers on a team. I don't care how many innings you play. You've got more pitchers. You can send a guy down and bring a guy up. It's back and forth. And for the Phillies, those guys are, less than an hour away at their minor league facility. So I don't just play 9 innings, play baseball the way it's meant to be played. And that's not what they're doing. And they're trying to, all they care about is to get to the playoffs. There's 3 reasons that hockey and basketball are playing in a bubble, and obviously that works. Baseball and football can't do that. But there's 3 reasons that baseball and football are going to play. It's money, and it's money. It has nothing to do with anything else. You could lose a whole team, and the Marlins almost lost their whole team. And they just brought other guys up. They ended up winning after that.
Well, that's what I've said. It's now no matter what. I mean, John McClain came on last week and said, what would stop the NFL from playing? Would it be the Chiefs lose their offensive line? Would it be that the Packers lose their defense? Well, if somebody dies, right? Like Doug Peterson gets COVID on Sunday. What happens if he's hospitalized this weekend? Does that shut the NFL down? Hell no. If he dies next week, does that shut it down? I don't. Where's the end of the plank? What shuts it down once it starts?
If somebody passed away, God forbid, they would pause. They wouldn't stop the season. They just pick it up again. And here's the scary part about this COVID virus, the COVID-19. Doug Peterson. And I asked him, Doug, did you feel anything? Anything? He was asymptomatic. He said nothing. The only reason he knew he had it is because the NFL gets tested every day. Joe Public doesn't get tested every day. So the people that, and they're going to try to stuff fans in there, that's a problem. But there's going to be a point during the season where you don't get tested every day. They're doing it now until they get below a certain percentage. But nonetheless, it doesn't matter. I mean, you could lose. The only way that I think they would pause the season in football and not stop is if in a span of a couple of weeks, you lose maybe the top 4 quarterbacks in the league for 2 to 3 weeks. That's the only way that they would pause it. They wouldn't stop it. All they care about, all baseball cares about, is to get to the playoffs. Their money from television. That's all they care about. And that's the sad part of this whole thing. And I'll be really disappointed because I just don't think, first of all, we should be on the downslide of this coronavirus, and we're really not. We've leveled off, but we leveled off at a higher level that we should be at. But if you allow fans in the games, and they're going to try to do it, baseball's going to try to do it, I don't think they're going to allow it in Philadelphia because this week they just canceled all scholastic sports for the fall. And I'm okay with in high school. And I'm okay with that. And they still haven't allowed a lot of things to happen. There's no way you can have, let's say it's just 10 to 20,000 fans in there. You just can't do that and say that that's safe. And that's a problem. But they're going to play. They're all going to play. You could lose an entire team in baseball, and they're going to play because they just want to get to the playoffs. They want to get to the really bigger money. And with, bringing in, why don't you just bring in everybody for the playoffs? That's more than half the teams now. Why don't you just bring in everybody? Baseball is become a complete joke. I don't even know what the schedule. I could look at a schedule for the Phillies or for because they had their schedule changed. They're playing Miami at one point this season because they missed those games 7 straight times with 2 doubleheaders in those 7 straight games. They played in Boston for a 2-day series, but now, so we got to give the players a day off. They're going to play 1 day, 1 doubleheader, so the Phillies can have a day off in September. I don't even know what the schedule is. You can't look at a schedule. All these schedules that were put out before it started, most of them are irrelevant right now because they keep on changing things. So, and teams aren't going to play the same games, and when they do, it's not fair. If you have a bad bullpen, as the Phillies do, although it didn't help them on Sunday, they lost a doubleheader to the Braves. If you have a poor bullpen and you're only playing 7-inning games, you got an advantage. And that's, everybody should be on the same playing field, and unfortunately they're not. Football, we still have to see. Media is still not permitted into training camp yet, and that will be limited. We'll have to see how they go. The rookies aren't going to get enough grass time on the field, so that's going to be a little bit of an issue. The quality of play we know is not going to be as good, but the fans only care about football, and we'll see what happens there.
Howard Eskin has been my friend going on 3 decades. He does sports radio, sports media, sports things in the city of brotherly love. My wife and I visited Philly very briefly. We drove through about 2 weeks ago. We went to Longwood Gardens, which is social distancing at its finest. Beautiful area. Kennett Square, got some mushrooms, the whole deal. And we went to see Tommy Conwell play a socially distanced outdoor show in front of the 118 North in Wayne, Pennsylvania. I'd never been to Wayne, Pennsylvania, outside the Blue Route there, out by Villanova. So we drove up through the city, up through Reading Terminal, and then we went past the Rocky Steps because my wife had never been past the Rocky Steps. And then we went through West Philadelphia, and there was definitely some challenged areas that we saw. And then we made our way out to Villanova and out. And they let me come home. Unlike the Marlins, I didn't get quarantined there 14 days, so I drove home that night. But Everyone was wearing their mask in Philly, Howard, and I will tell you this: driving through Center City, which I did, a lot more bustling than Baltimore from a things moving around and people moving around and buses running and things happening. I live in the middle of Baltimore. I don't see. In the last 7 months, I've seen very little activity, and it's the first time I've driven through a city other than my own, Reading Terminal, the whole deal. How are you doing? How's Philly doing? Like, give me a little lay of the land for how many Yabos are ready to run back to a Phillies game right now and spread the virus.
Well, there's always those people, and they're ready to go back, and they'll go back regardless. There's people that are still. New Jersey was probably worse down the Jersey Shore in Atlantic City and Margate and those places along the Jersey Shore. I mean, Long Beach Island is kind of more for the New Yorkers, but the people on the boardwalk, most of them aren't wearing masks. On the beach, I guess I kind of understand it because you can separate from each other, but there's not a lot of masks. That's why the governor of New Jersey continued no in-room dining in New Jersey because he called the people a bunch of knuckleheads because they're not following the guidelines that they've asked them to follow. So now they only penalize themselves and businesses. Philadelphia, as it turns out now, with things, I really just touch on the edge if I go to a Phillies game and really don't go downtown because after all the looting, there's still a lot of the stores are still boarded up because they had all their windows broken. Fine town that we had at that time, where the police just watched for 2 days as they just tore.
Yeah, that was brutal. That was brutal. Yeah, that was tough to watch. All of it was tough to watch.
There's trash all over the place because the guy that's in the mayor's office, who is a complete idiot and a loser and just an arrogant guy. His name is Jim Kenney. He's a disgrace. He doesn't collect the trash on the intervals that they've always been scheduled to collect trash, and hasn't collected it for a while because he's trying to save money, and he just tells the people to reuse and use less products to throw away. So reuse your napkins, reuse your paper cuts, reuse your paper plates, just reuse everything. So it's just what a great way to tell people, trash is not a problem. This is the same guy that when we haven't had much snow, when we had a snowstorm and the streets in Philadelphia weren't cleared, his response was, well, eventually it'll melt. Okay. What about...
it's true.
Yeah,
he didn't lie.
Yeah, right. What about the time that people can't get around because you got snow all over the place? This is the idiot that we have in Philadelphia. And Philadelphia is nice, but I live in the suburbs on the Baltimore side of Philadelphia, let's say, to give people an idea. And I don't really have to go in that much because all my radio stuff I do from home, as a lot of people are, because the equipment nowadays sounds like you're in the studio. So I haven't had, there's no reason a lot of times for me to go into Philadelphia other than the game, and the ballparks are right on the edge of town the way I go in there. So I haven't seen it all. I can't tell you that I miss it. You went to a lot of good places, and Wayne is not in Philadelphia. Wayne, Pennsylvania is out in the suburban areas, and there it's clean, and they're doing the right things. In the area in which I live, in Delaware County, they take care of the parks very well. It's clean. Everything's done right and properly. So, but again, what I'm doing these days is I'm walking about 17 miles a day.
Wow.
And I don't. It stopped me from staying in and just eating junk. I've lost about 24 pounds.
Oh man, you're gonna lose all your suits. You're gonna give them to me? What are you gonna do with them? Nothing's gonna fit you anymore.
I know. Believe me, that's a little bit of an issue.
I know it is. I lost 35 pounds like 15 years ago, and everything went from extra large to sort of medium small, and I had to throw like literally every piece of clothing I had out. Losing weight's expensive.
Well,
it's good for you, though. It's good for you.
Yeah, it is good for you. So,
can I ask you this, Hal? You've done sports forever, and you're famous and infamous in Philly and whatever. my last name's Aparicio, right? Like, so, I came into this honest off the boat with my family in the 60s and my cousin coming over here and me actually learning about how I wound up here through my family and through baseball. Football's become my number one. Yeah, obviously, last 25 years, what I do, I write books about it. Billick's my partner. In our city, it's become number one. I love hockey, right? Like, I've always loved hockey. I love the action. I think it's the best sport. And now your Flyers are in this. This 6 months without sports for all of us who love it, who've lived our lives making money doing it. What have you figured out what you love the most? And has anything changed for you that you have to evaluate in 6 months of being on the sidelines? Because this is certainly beyond what I ever thought I would have to do, is take a step back and say, what am I doing and how am I doing it, right? From a crisis management.
Well, without sports, I guess if we didn't have it for a year, it'd be a challenge, but we seem to make it work because there was a lot of different things that we did at the radio station that I work for. Television news has become a joke because they don't really care about sports anymore. Not like they used to when I started in it. So it's just it's different. But I don't know what it would be like. What's changed for me? I got turned off when everybody was fighting about money. In baseball, I really got turned off. It's just, we had a pandemic going on. People were losing their jobs. People didn't have enough money to put food on their table. And these guys are fighting over instead of making $20 million, they'll make $9 million. Come on now. Come on. It's ridiculous. So I got kind of turned off by that situation. So I'm walking now, so you can hear the lawnmowers out here.
Oh, I hear you. It's okay. This is Howard Eskin live and unplugged. I want raw Eskin. I want raw Delaware County Eskin is what I want.
Well, that's what I'm doing. I'm raising money for charity too, for Philabundance, which is an organization that gets food for people that can't get food.
You know what? Take a minute and talk about Philabundance, because we've done so much about charity. I drove into Philly, and out on 95, I saw the Philabundance signs. And I said to my wife, I know about Philabundance. Do you know how I know about Philabundance? Bruce Springsteen, every single time he comes to Philadelphia, at the end of his regular set, before he plays Born to Run and takes requests, he reads, as he's done all over the world, he does a food bank thing almost every place in the world. Sometimes it's a different kind of charity, but it's always a charity. So Philabundance, I've heard it come off of Bruce's lips, 40 times over the last 35 years, because I've seen Bruce in Philadelphia, and every time he talks Philabundance, it's the food bank, literally, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So I'm raising money for them. I'm raising money for, it's called Brandywine SPCA, because the problem with dog rescues now, they used to have, or when they could, had large events, invited people there, and you would get a lot of adoptions of the dogs and the cats at the events. Well, you can't have large events right now.
Yeah.
So obviously, to keep on supporting the dogs and to bring awareness, there's nothing they can do. So I'm raising money for those two organizations, and people are nice enough to make a donation, and I'm walking in the promotion that we have. I'm walking 11 since the pandemic, and I got shorted 200 miles, but I'll still get there. From the distance from Lincoln Financial Field to Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, which is where this year's Super Bowl is, it's 1,103 miles.
Okay.
So I'm walking 1,103 miles before the start of the season.
Where are you right now? What's your number?
I'm about I think it's 825.
825. Okay.
So I've virtually crossed the Florida state line. So I'm virtually in Florida now.
Well, honk the horn in Jacksonville. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's all right. So I'm doing that, and it's just, but it gives me a purpose of fitness and mental health during this time. So I walk 6.5 to 7 hours a day, at different times of the day to get to 7. Yesterday I did 18 miles a day. Before I did 17. I did 21 about a week ago.
Wow.
In a day. So, but sports, the way it is right now, and I'll have to see what football's like, but be interesting. All the baseball announcers are not traveling with their teams. They're doing it from either their home stadium or a home studio. I got to see what our radio broadcast team does, which I'm a part of, obviously, as a sideline reporter. We still haven't had word whether we'll travel. And I'm not upset if we don't, because it's a lot of travel, short period of time. 2 of the trips are to not great places, Arizona and Santa Clara, San Francisco, whatever. But it's in right now what are still somewhat hot spots. So we'll see what happens. But I haven't decided on football, but I think baseball has become kind of a joke, the way they're doing it. I think it's become kind of a joke. So got a little turned off with that. But still, obviously watch it, follow it, still talk about it like I would talk about it normally. But it's a little bit different, obviously, in the situation they're in. Short season, making the playoffs normally is a big deal. Well, I don't know if it's a big deal now.
Well, it would be a big deal around here with a team that was going to lose 110 games before all this started that's now over 500. So, Howard, man, walk. And, maybe I'll come up here and walk some miles with you. I certainly want to support you in any way I can. I know the Eagles are on the Ravens schedule this year, so hopefully I'll check in for a tasty cake and a pretzel or something like that. And, man, I miss concerts, brother. I miss concerts, man.
Well, wait a minute. The Eagles, I haven't even looked at the schedule that closely. So they play what was the schedule?
That's
date?
November the 18th. At your place. You have October the 18th. October the 18th at your place.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it'll be interesting. We'll see what happens. And that's the other problem that teams have. There's a limit with how many media people are at the Phillies games. And I guess there's going to be a limit on, because you can't fill the press box like it normally is, on how many people at that game. But I'm not coming up to the press box. I don't even know how close I'm going to get to the field, but normally I'm close to the bench. I don't know that I want to do that either. So we'll see that. But I can really get my information the way I can't hear the thing. Oh, everybody that's there will probably hear the people on the field. But yeah, it'll be different. I mean, the Eagles will be good. The Ravens will be good. We'll see if Lamar Jackson is everything that people are making him out to be.
So I'll paint the picture. October 18th, the Orioles are playing the Phillies for the World Series across the street. The Flyers are skating the Stanley Cup next door, and we'll have the Ravens and the Eagles getting together for 12,000 socially distanced fans in your stadium. How about that?
Do you want, what do you want, 21 odds on all that?
I certainly don't want the Flyers to win a Stanley Cup. I just think it would be appropriate that they win for nobody, playing at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in a tent in Edmonton somewhere.
Well,
I want you to suffer, Howard.
Here's the other thing. The Flyers have not had a parade since 1974, and they can't have a parade now. The thing is, because if they try to have a parade, they can't have people out there.
Oh, no.
So, Philadelphia would probably not permit, because they could say they're going to have a parade. Who are they going to, and they're going to tell people to socially distance. The Flyers have this little event, actually today, in New Jersey, down the shore in Sea Isle, where a 2-mile caravan of Flyer alumni and the Flyers, which they have every year, but you can't have it this year. So they've asked people to socially distance for this little parade, this little parade caravan. First of all, they shouldn't even have it, because people won't socially distance. It's packed down there, and there's just no way when you have a caravan down the street that they're going to socially distance. And I know they'll try to have a parade, but they can't. So if they win the Stanley Cup, it's totally the wrong year to have it, because you can't have a parade. You just can't. Well, you can't come out. What do you mean you can't come out? It's a public street. You can't have a parade. So
I'm going to let you think about whether Gritty could actually convey the virus, creature to person. I'm wondering. Maybe Gritty's where the whole thing started. I'm just saying. Maybe it wasn't Wuhan after all.
Gritty. I can't believe that. I can't believe that mascot became so big. But didn't like it at first, but the kids love it. So
it's caught on.
Yeah, I guess the dumber the look of the mascot, the better the mascot is.
Look at the fanatic. It's caught on forever.
Yep. That's exactly right.
All right. Well, the smarter the sports radio show host, the more I like listen. Keep walking, dude, man. I'm glad I caught up with you. I mean, I'm glad you're feeling great. You sound great. You're more upbeat than I expected. I expected you to be your curmudgeon. I mean, you're softening up on me, Howard. I like it.
Well, yeah, but I think baseball sucks. So that's not really soft. The way they're doing it. First of all, the games, 7-inning games, are what 9-inning games used to be, the time-wise.
Sure.
Now you still have long games, which are too long. It's still the same. It's strikeouts, it's walks, and home runs, which is not the way the game. There's no hit and run. There's no stolen bases. It's not what the game was supposed to be, and that's kind of the sad part of what baseball has become. But it's still. One time it was a beautiful game, and now they're screwing it up even more. So, whatever. But the Orioles, I guess, 20, 25 years from now, they might compete?
Well, they got it all figured out. Just ask anybody in the fan base. They'll tell you that they're building without a minor league on the field this year and trying to shut up half the minor league business. That's for next month. We'll save that for October. Howard, I love you, man. Keep walking and make sure you're hydrating now, all right?
I hydrate all the time. If people, I'll just give a little shout out to my Twitter site. It's just pretty simple, at Howard Eskin.
There it is.
So if they want to jump on there.
Never had a bad day in your life. Never.
There you go. No, I've had testing. I've been tested, and there's moments, but never a bad day.
I test you every time I call you twice a year. Howard Eskin, the king of Philadelphia sports radio, and that's hard to do over 4 decades. You can find him out at Howard Eskin on Twitter. He tweets, he writes, he opines. Sometimes he Facebooks lives. He does all sorts of things out there. Goes Twitter live, the whole deal. And walking on behalf of Phil Abundance and helping good people up in Philadelphia. So good to have Howard on at Sports Radio 94 WIP and Eagles games. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live with the purple magma flow of sporticulture. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports and Philadelphia hosts.